All right, today we're going to talk about shallowing the golf club. It's something everybody talks about, everybody's trying to get, but there's so many misconceptions out there about it. So we're going to dive into it and help you get better. Let's do it. What's going on, everybody? Scott Hogan coming at you. We are here in the studio. We're going to hop on the simulator. We're going to talk about your golf swing because it is time to get out there. If you haven't been working on it, you need to start working on your golf swing to get better, and we want to get more consistent. So before we do that, make sure you check out, we still have our $25 swing analysis down below. You can check that out. Also, make sure you head over to our online courses, scotthogangolf.com. You can check out all of those as well. And as always, click that subscribe button if you're not a subscriber already. Don't miss out on all the other stuff we have coming up on course, all that stuff. I'm excited for it. So the first thing we need to know is when we start talking about shallowing, what are we talking about? Okay, so here's what most people think they are talking about. Okay, they are talking about when we set up to a golf ball, the club is resting at an angle. Essentially it's a lie angle, right? The angle that the club was built at. And if we can swing the club and keep it pretty close to that angle throughout, it tends to be a little bit easier to swing and a little bit harder to mess things up, although it's still possible. But you're trying to keep that club in somewhat of a angle to where it was designed, all right? Now, when we go through this, okay, what happens to most people? Well, they do some things in their swing where they'll go back and then, whether they're trying to hit down on the ball or they're just, spinning out, moving their shoulders and their hips, that club gets off the angle that it was designed on and it gets what we'd call steep. So what a lot of people are trying to do now is they see on video, hey, I see pros, they're swinging the club and is it keeping that angle real nice? And it will. It looks really good, and that's something that you should try to achieve. However, how you achieve it is not necessarily what you are looking at, okay? We want to get shallow, but what we are talking about, when we see the club doing this, okay, this is shaft pitch, okay? This is not shallow, okay? When we are swinging, when I go up, you'll see a lot of players, the one that you'll see the most is Matthew Wolff, right? He'll go up and the shaft is pitched this way, and then he comes down and it actually pitches like this. Or Scotty Scheffler actually is another one. He's up and it's slightly across the line. He'll pitch it down and then he works it in. That is the pitch of the shaft. It does not mean that you are going to be shallow to the golf ball. What you need to be looking at is something else to get shallow, and that something else is hand path. Where are your hands going throughout your swing? So I like using this device I picked up at the PGA show, the DeWiz. I've talked about it. It's really helped me, but it helps me illustrate how my hands are moving throughout my swing. I tell you all, I'm trying to work on getting my drawback, getting some of that to be a little bit more consistent. Well, this is how I've been doing it. What we see a lot of times, okay, what happens with your hands are essentially just going to work in this circle around you, okay? So, ideally, it doesn't happen all the time, but when they came back through, when you're set up, your hands are located at a position, and when you come back through, your hands would actually be at that position away from your body as you're going through to hit the ball. A lot of really good ball strikers do that. Not always going to happen, but it is something that I think is really nice when it happens. But what ends up happening, though, is when we swing, we don't have the ability just to go, all right, I'm just going to swing in the circle around me and keep my hands in the same relationship to my body. That doesn't work. One, we don't get any angle to it. They don't have any up, so you can't hit down at the ball, make the ball get in the air. You also need to go up to develop speed. So you're not going to really have fun playing golf where you just keep your hands low in the circle that they kind of swing on. So what happens in our golf swing is our hands are going to go up as we go into the backswing, but this is where the shallowing comes in. We need to bring them back shallow so they are getting into that circle that will go around our body, okay? So this is where it differentiates between, being shallow and shaft pitch. Because what I see a lot of people do is they get up here and they're like, all right, I'm going to lay down the shaft, something like this, okay? But they'll do that and their hands go out. Well, I can tell you, even though the shaft is shallow, okay, it's the pitch, right? The pitch is on a good angle, but your hands are in a bad spot, so you still have to go down and be steep at the ball, okay? So when we actually change that, we can actually get a little more shallow with the hands. We can actually get that club traveling a lot easier, and it's not going to feel like what it should or what you think it should, but you are going to start seeing that shaft get into that correct pitch anyway, and then you're able to bring the club in on a nice shallow arc. And I think it's worth saying, what is shallow really, right? Shallow is I'm not hammering down at the golf ball. I'm hitting down at it, but I'm coming in and it's kind of like a plane landing on a runway. I'm not diving on the runway. I'm coming in for a smooth landing to touch the ground while I'm hitting the golf ball. So I love it. This is something that I've been trying to work on. Somebody that's really, really good at this. You can watch a lot of players, but I think Rory does an excellent job of this. He does draw the golf ball. So if you're somebody that's a slicer, it's worth looking at his hand path. So we'll put that up here on the screen. You'll notice as he goes back, he takes it, hands actually work a little bit out. He gets his hands to then kind of route to the inside, which then lets that club travel out. So that's what we would like to see as we go through. And again, I've been using this DeWiz, and it's been super, super helpful for me to be able to feel this. So let's go ahead. I'm going to hit one here, okay? And let's talk about how we're going to achieve this good hand path for a nice shallow delivery. So one, you don't want the hands to come in too early, because if you do that, they're going to have to come over late, okay? So again, like Rory, you can keep the hands out. Rory even takes them out a little much, but from there, if I go out, as I turn my body back, you can see what path my hands are taking, right? So I can go out and work them in with my body pivot, okay? If you think about another swing that's been super, super successful on the PGA Tour, Jim Furyk, think about what his looks like, right? He's going something like that. It's the same idea, it's just taken to a whole nother level. Matthew Wolff, another guy that kind of does that as he goes, right? So we want to get that path working kind of in a circle where we're going out, using our body to bring it in, and then we can go. So I'm going to go ahead, let's hit one, and let's take a look. I like that. First off, let's take a look at that contact. Let's marvel on that one, because that's awesome. I'm going to hopefully keep doing that. And if you've seen some of my other videos, I've been kind of struggling with toe strikes. Let's just do that one all the time, okay? Now, the other thing is, let's go ahead. I'm going to fire up the DeWiz. It's always nice to have some feedback. So one thing I like about DeWiz is it's just capturing shot after shot, so I can hit a bunch of balls and go back and look at them. But here we go. We're going to go through. As you go back, you can see on this, our little character, our avatar, the blue line is the watch going up. And this is not exactly where your hand path is. Your hand path is technically where your hands join the grip. But that's all right. We're close enough, right? So from here, you can see on the way down, I've got a nice, just inside green mark. That green line coming down is just inside as I'm going in. That's what I want to see. You can also see I have a transition number here just below it, negative 0.2 inches. So the negative means I came down just a hair on the inside. I personally kind of like that. I like something close to zero. I'm not trying to hit slanging hooks or anything, but for practice sake, I might want to see it get a little more exaggerated as we go. We can also see the shape of the shot as we go. Again, just kind of using our data to show us what's going on. Club path there, this is a 7-iron, 4.3 to the right. My face to path was 3.2 left, which I like. That means my club face was still open to the target, so that ball is going to start a little right, and it will then work its way back. So that's a really good one. I'm going to take that, okay? Let's go ahead. Let's just try one more of those, because I'm kind of addicted. Let's just see how it goes. So again, I'm going to feel like it's more up, kind of working behind as we go. Oh, that felt good. Oh, it didn't Didn't get the shot, but that's okay. We've got the swing. I can tell you that one felt really good. Here we go. Up with the blue. I mean, almost identical, right? Almost identical, actually is identical, -0.2. So that's a really nice motion there. You can see that green line coming down as we go. And one thing I find when you swing like this too, you know, your body's gonna have some limitations, right? Like, hey, when I go back and then I let the hands work in, I can only go so far back this way, so it's a lot harder to overdo it. When I go out this way, you know, there's a lot of room to kind of go over the top, and that causes us a lot of issues. So you want to get your hand path dialed in. We'll see on the shot I hit before, my angle of attack there, -2.7. For a 7-iron, again, that's really good. My low point, because I'm hitting a draw, it could possibly be a little more forward, only a 1.3 forward. But again, when you're swinging more to the right or on a draw pattern, it's going to move closer to the ball. But that's something we can look at. So using the DeWiz has been good for me to identify that. You can obviously do that on video as well. You just kind of have to take a little more time, kind of tracking the path that your hands go. But you'll see as we watch these swings back, pay attention to the shaft plane as we go. I'm not trying to do any laying down whatsoever, okay? Now, that might not be for everybody, but I find that people have much more success when they work on how the hands go. And you can see, I even try and like stand the club up as I go through here. That's something that it feels exactly the opposite of what it should, but the result, that's why it's important to see it so you can say, okay, this is what's going on and this is what I need to work on, because the feel that I have is completely different, but what's really happening is what I want. So I need to combine those feels and reels to be able to get what I want in my swing. So working that hand path, getting that hand path more shallow is going to be a big help for you in working on your swing and getting it more consistent. So hopefully, if you hadn't heard of hand path, hopefully you have now, and it's something you can watch. Obviously, you're going to see a variety of hand paths. Not everybody is going to make that transition where their hands are moving in. You might not even actually do it. I still can find when I'm hitting on DeWiz, I can have a hand path that is not negative. That transition number isn't negative, but I can still hit a draw. There is some elements that make it still possible, such as hitting more down on the ball, stuff like that. But in general, I think most people are going to need to do that, especially if you're a slicer. You're going to need to do that. Even if you're not a slicer, you're somebody that hits hooks, you could probably benefit from identifying if your hand path is where you want it to be. It's going to make you more consistent, and it honestly feels pretty different, but it feels really good when you hit really good shots like we see here. So try it out, give it a go, identify it on video, and as always, again, if you need help with it, make sure you take advantage of our $25 swing evaluation and get some work done on your swing, all right? So thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. Click that subscribe button if you're not a subscriber already, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next one. Peace.